And the reason is because foreign intelligence agencies are not supposed to be spying on Americans. That's why their names are redacted or blacked out of these reports. If someone wants to know the name of an American who is incidentally collected, let's just say, assume the Russian ambassador is speaking to an American, you have to have a very good reason. That was true 10, 15 years ago. It's still true now.
We've all heard the whispers, the late night jokes, the viral clips where even the most cautious observers raise an eyebrow and ask, how exactly do you go from public servant to private island owner? But this week, the question isn't just rhetorical. It's the center of a storm that's pulling back the curtain on how Washington's elite turn power into fortunes, and why the Obamas and Clintons aren't just exceptions to the rule, but the blueprint. The trigger? A fresh wave of declassified documents, a grand jury probe into former officials, and a pair of outspoken critics, Dave Smith and Joe Rogan, who just put the entire system on blast in a way that's impossible to ignore.
They similarly, like a fire extinguisher, they called Obama to come on in, and he didn't have the same impact. It was like he wasn't the same, didn't have the same, perceptible gravitas that he did. Remember when he would pull all those people at the Berlin Wall in 2009 and everybody like this, and they thought, wow, what a great moment for America, this man of color with all this. But now he wasn't pulling, and he wasn't coming across convincing, and he was applying that linguistic style that he does, that he used to have such effectiveness with.
It started with a single damning observation. Barack Obama, a man who entered the White House in 2009 with a net worth hovering around $1.3 million, now owns a $15 million waterfront compound in Martha's Vineyard, a $8.1 million mansion in D.C., and an $8.4 million beachfront estate in Hawaii. All while his foundation rakes in donations from the same corporate players his policies once favored. Meanwhile, the Clintons, who left the White House in 2001 with legal bills and a modest portfolio, have somehow amassed a fortune north of $200 million, fueled by speaking fees that would make a Fortune 500 CEO blush. The math doesn't add up, and the timing? Impossibly convenient. But here's what changed this week. The conversation shifted from backroom chatter to a full-throated accusation, backed by new evidence that suggests this isn't just wealth. It's a scheme. The spark came from an unexpected corner. On July 23, 2025, Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard stood in the White House briefing room and dropped a bombshell. A declassified report, she claimed, proved that Obama-era officials, including then-President Obama himself, directed the creation of an intelligence assessment they knew was false, a manufactured narrative about Russian interference in 2016 designed to undermine Donald Trump's presidency before it even began. The documents, Gabbard alleged, showed a treasonous conspiracy where intelligence was weaponized not for national security, but for political survival. Within hours, the DOJ announced a federal grand jury investigation into former Obama officials, including James Clapper, John Brennan, and James Comey, for their roles in what's now being called the most aggressive abuse of power in modern history.
President Trump has been nonstop tweeting about Obamagate, which stems from allegations Obama and senior officials used government power to spy on Trump's campaign. Can you say with 100% certainty that this did not happen and it's all a big Trump conspiracy theory to distract us?
Well, I didn't say it. 17 intelligence agencies. These are nonpartisan. These are people who've risked their lives for us, CIA, NSA.
And then, as if on cue, Dave Smith and Joe Rogan took the baton and ran with it straight into the heart of the Obama's bank accounts. Their argument wasn't just about the money. It was about the mechanism. On Rogan's podcast, Smith laid it out plainly. You bail out the big banks, then suddenly those banks really want to hear you speak. You push policies that benefit Silicon Valley, then poof, Netflix hands you a 9-figure deal. You spend 8 years playing identity politics. Then you buy a street in Martha's Vineyard where half the houses are owned by Saudi royals.
What do you tell them about this insanely corrupt system that's supposed to be the controlling operating system of this greatest country the world has ever known, this experiment in self-government, and it's just deeply corrupt?
It is. And so what we do is we go back and talk about all those sacrifices that were made so we can have these options and opportunities, in the hopes that our kids take a pause and actually become part of the solution and respect
The implication? This isn't coincidence. It's a pipeline. And the Clintons perfected it first. Bill and Hillary left the White House in 2001 with a net worth of $420,000. By 2015, Forbes reported they'd earned $230 million, mostly from speeches to Wall Street, foreign governments, and corporations that had direct business before Hillary's State Department. The Clinton Foundation, meanwhile, became a revolving door for donations from entities like the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, which funneled millions during Hillary's tenure as Secretary of State, only to stop the moment she lost the 2016 election. As Smith put it, they weren't donating to charity. They were buying access. And when the access expired, so did the checks. But the Obamas took the model and supercharged it. Their net worth has ballooned by 30 times since entering the White House, with Obama's wealth now estimated at $70 million, all while he and Michelle position themselves as champions of the downtrodden. The hypocrisy isn't just glaring, it's the point. Their Martha's Vineyard estate isn't just a home, it's a symbol. A 6,900 square foot middle finger to the working class, paid for by a system where a single speech to Goldman Sachs can net $400,000, and a Netflix deal about hope and change comes with a $50 million price tag. And let's not forget the foundation. The Obama Foundation, like the Clinton Foundation before it, operates as a 501c3, meaning donations are tax deductible. And the donors? A who's who of corporations and foreign interests that benefited from Obama's policies.
Obama. There was a guy at the Trump rally that said that Puerto Rico's a pile of garbage. Those are human beings. Like, was that guy maybe telling a joke?
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah.
Is he telling a joke?
Well,
do you know what jokes are? You're my age. You know what jokes are? What are we doing?
Come on,
bro.
Like
what are we doing?
Coincidence? Insiders say the real question is why we're still calling it that. Then there's the timing. The grand jury probe into Obama officials isn't happening in a vacuum. It's unfolding as Trump's allies in the FBI, including newly appointed Deputy Director Dan Bongino, a vocal Obama critic, begin digging into what Bongino has called the biggest political scandal of our lifetime. The focus, the alleged fabrication of intelligence to justify spying on Trump's campaign, a plot that, if proven, wouldn't just rewrite history. It would confirm what skeptics have suspected for years, that the Obama administration didn't just play dirty. It invented the playbook.
And now we had 53 requests between the election day and January 12, 2017 by 39 Obama officials, all for General Flynn's name, and they're saying nothing to see here.
And the money? That's just the reward for a job well done. But here's where the story gets even darker. The same week Gabbard's report dropped, a former FBI agent named Jody Weiss, who spent 23 years in the Bureau, went on record calling the Obama-era intel scandal the biggest political scandal of my life. His claim? That Obama himself directed the creation of a false assessment about Russian collusion, despite internal reports showing the probability of such interference was very low.
We're always wondering, why is our debt so high? Why is the national debt so high? Why is our deficit so insane? Well, this is it. I mean, how about the one where they paid $236 billion, for chargers? Do you know that they were trying to set up chargers?
You mean car chargers?
Car chargers.
And they only built a couple of them?
Excuse me. $40 billion for electric car ports. 8 ports have been built. You know how crazy?
The goal, Weiss alleged, wasn't just to undermine Trump. It was to create an insurance policy in case Hillary Clinton lost. And when she did, the machine kicked into overdrive. Susan Rice's now infamous email to herself in her final hours in office, noting that Obama insisted everything be done by the book? Critics say that's not a directive. It's a paper trail. A way to cover their tracks while the real work happened in the shadows. And the real work paid off. Literally. Because while the Russia collusion narrative dominated headlines for years, the Obamas and Clintons were busy monetizing their influence in ways that made their predecessors look amateur. The speeches, the book deals, the foundation donations, they weren't just income streams. They were the spoils of a system where power doesn't just corrupt, it enriches.
I think Obama damaged his brand. I mean, really damaged his brand.
This election.
Yes. He was called in like a fire extinguisher. The same way that Bill Clinton was held out of the Hillary election cycle. After the convention, show me where Bill was actually on active duty. He wasn't. He was in the reserves.
Yeah.
He was in.
And the enriching never stops. Even now, as the grand jury convenes and the documents pile up, the Obamas are still cashing in. Michelle's latest memoir deal, rumored to be worth $30 million. Barack's production company with Netflix, greenlit for another season. The foundation, still raking in millions from donors who know exactly what they're buying. But the most damning detail might be what's happening right now. As the DOJ's probe heats up, the Obamas aren't just staying silent, they're doubling down. Sources close to the former president say he's unconcerned about the investigations, confident that the same system that protected him in office will shield him now. And why wouldn't it? The rules, after all, were written by people just like him. The Clintons proved you could leave the White House broke and return a decade later as a 9-figure power couple. The Obamas took the lesson to heart. The only difference this time? The receipts are starting to surface. And that's what makes this moment different. Because for years, the story of political enrichment was treated like an open secret. Something everyone knew, but no one could prove. But now, the proofs are stacking up. The declassified emails, the grand jury, the whistleblowers like Weiss stepping forward, the financial trails that lead from the Oval Office to offshore accounts and luxury real estate. Even the Saudis, who, as Smith pointed out, suddenly lost interest in charity the moment Hillary lost, are back in the picture, this time as neighbors to the Obamas in Martha's Vineyard.
Yeah, so to see him repeat a lie that is a proven lie, a hoax, it's been debunked, yeah, how do you go back in the same way and trust whoever Obama was?
Coincidence? Or just another transaction in a system where loyalty has a price tag? What we're watching unfold isn't just a scandal. It's the exposure of an entire economy. one where public service is the ultimate insider trade, and the real currency isn't dollars. It's impunity. The question now isn't whether the Obamas and Clintons got rich, it's whether the system that let them will finally be forced into the light. And if the past week is any indication, the answers are coming faster than anyone expected. Because when Dave Smith drops a line like, all it is just corruption on a much bigger level, but it's legal corruption, and everyone just accepts it, he isn't just stating a fact, he's issuing a challenge. And the people listening, they're not just nodding anymore, they're demanding the rest of the story. And that's where the real story begins. Not with the Obamas or the Clintons as isolated cases, but as the most visible nodes in a network so vast, so entrenched, that it doesn't just operate in the shadows. It is the system.
Well, unfortunately, Sonny, it seems to be what the president does when he hears the truth. Instead of listening to it and adapting to it, he fires people. He's fired 4 inspector generals. These are our independent watchdogs. They're independent of any political party. 4 of them in the last 6 weeks. The lack of listening to...
The same week Tulsi Gabbard's report dropped, a quiet but telling detail emerged. The Obama Foundation's donor list reads like a who's who of corporations that directly benefited from his administration's policies. Goldman Sachs, which paid Obama $400,000 for a single speech in 2017, had its executives appointed to key Treasury positions during his presidency. J.P. Morgan, another frequent donor, saw its influence expand under Dodd-Frank regulations it helped shape. And then there's the tech sector, Amazon, Google, and Apple, all of whom contributed millions to the foundation while securing lucrative government contracts and favorable antitrust rulings. This isn't coincidence. It's a closed loop. The money flows in, the access flows out, and the cycle repeats, year after year, administration after administration. But the foundation is just the tip of the iceberg. The real engine of this machine is the speaking circuit, a place where former officials don't just cash in, but launder influence. Take Hillary Clinton's infamous Goldman Sachs speeches, where she reportedly told bankers, you have to have a public and a private position on policy. Or Bill Clinton's 6-figure appearances for foreign governments, including a $500,000 payday from a Russian-backed investment firm while Hillary served as Secretary of State. The Obamas have mastered this game too. Barack's speaking fees now rival those of top CEOs, and Michelle's deals, like her recent $30 million memoir advance, come from publishers and studios that know exactly what they're buying. Not just a book, but protection. Because in this world, the line between a donation and a bribe isn't just blurred, it's erased. And then there are the secondary players, the lobbyists, the corporate fixers, the former aides who pivot seamlessly from government service to 7-figure consulting gigs. Tony Podesta, the Democratic super lobbyist, made millions representing foreign governments while his brother John served as Obama's counselor. Valerie Jarrett, Obama's longtime advisor, now sits on the boards of companies like Lyft and Ariel Investments, both of which benefited from policies she helped craft. Even lesser-known figures like David Plouffe, Obama's former campaign manager, cashed in with a lucrative role at Uber, where he helped the company navigate regulatory hurdles set by the very administration he once led. The message is clear. Loyalty to the system pays, and the system never forgets its own. But here's what makes this moment different. The system is starting to crack. The grand jury probe into Obama-era officials isn't just about 2016. It's about exposing how intelligence agencies, the Justice Department, and even the FBI were allegedly repurposed as tools of political warfare. And the players involved? They're still in the game. James Comey, now a private citizen, faces renewed scrutiny over his handling of the Russia investigation. An investigation that, according to newly declassified emails, he and other Obama officials knew was built on shaky ground. John Brennan, the former CIA director, is under fire for allegedly lying to Congress about the Steele dossier, a document funded by the Clinton campaign that became the basis for surveillance warrants against Trump associates. And then there's Susan Rice, whose last-minute email about Obama's buy-the-book directive looks less like a procedural note and more like an insurance policy. Because in a system where power is currency, the most valuable asset isn't money, it's plausible deniability, and the deniability is running out. The same week the grand jury was announced, a former FBI agent told the National News Desk that the Obama-era intel scandal was the biggest of my lifetime, not because of what was done, but because of who did it. This wasn't a rogue operation. It was a top-down directive, with Obama allegedly at the center, orchestrating a narrative that would keep his legacy intact and his opponents on the defensive. The goal? To ensure that no matter who won in 2016, the machine would keep humming. And it worked, until it didn't. Because now, the very tools they used to control the story, declassified documents, whistleblowers, a newly aggressive DOJ, are being turned against them. But the most chilling part isn't the past, it's the present. Because while the Obamas and Clintons are the most visible beneficiaries of this system, they're far from the only ones. Look at the Bidens. Hunter's foreign business deals, which netted millions from Ukrainian and Chinese entities while his father was vice president, follow the same playbook. Or take a figure like Tony Blinken, now Secretary of State, whose consulting firm raked in millions from foreign governments before he rejoined the administration. The pattern is undeniable. Public service is a stepping stone to private wealth, with the understanding that the revolving door never stops spinning. And the kicker? The people who benefit most are the ones who pretend to be above it all. Which brings us back to the Obamas, because their story isn't just about money, it's about messaging. While Barack and Michelle preach about income inequality from their Martha's Vineyard compound, their wealth accumulation isn't just hypocritical, it's strategic. The speeches, the book deals, the foundation donations, they're not just paydays, they're distractions, a way to keep the focus on their carefully curated image of progressive champions while the real work happens behind the scenes. And the real work? It's ensuring that the system they benefited from stays intact for the next generation of political elites. Because in the end, that's what this is really about. Not just enriching themselves, but preserving the mechanism that allows it to happen again and again. And that mechanism is still running. Right now, as the grand jury meets and the documents pile up, the same corporations that funded the Obama Foundation are lobbying against antitrust laws.
It's not the marriage that I am familiar with. That sounds like hell. And that's what Michelle Obama is describing Barack Obama as being. They have nothing to talk about unless they save it until dinner. He smacks his gun and she's like stewing all day like this. I mean, this is real contempt and hatred in a marriage. Like,
yes, it was a couples therapist. First of all, she had on a couples therapist, which is very interesting, her selection of guests, and Barack wasn't there.
The same banks that paid the Clintons for speeches are pushing for deregulation. And the same intelligence officials who allegedly weaponized their agencies, many are now private consultants, selling their expertise to the highest bidder. The system doesn't just survive scandals, it thrives on them. Because every time the public gets outraged, the machine adapts. It finds new loopholes, new justifications, new ways to turn power into profit. So where does that leave us? With a question that's harder to answer than it seems. What happens when the people who are supposed to fix the system are the ones who built it? Because the Obamas and Clintons didn't just exploit a broken system, they perfected it. And unless something changes, the next generation of political elites will follow the same path, only smarter, quieter, and with even fewer consequences. And that's the real scandal. Not that they got rich, but that they made sure we would never be able to stop them. So tell us, do you think this is just how the game is played, or is it time to burn the playbook for good? Drop your thoughts in the comments, smash that like button if you're tired of the double standards, and don't forget to subscribe, because the deeper we dig, the wilder it gets. Stay curious, stay skeptical, and remember, in a world where the truth is a commodity, the best thing we can do is keep asking questions. Until next time.